thank you for being here. I haven't had a chance to connect with everyone personally, but for those of you that I met in the hallway, got on a call with, met at another meeting, just thank you for the warm welcome. Thank you for your attentiveness today. The conversations across the board have been amazing. I do want to, because I'm a good old teacher in my heart, I do want to bring back a question I asked during the panel. I talked about what other data. And we ended up in an implementation science session, and we talked about asking the question about what we're doing, is it working, how do we monitor and change and shift? And so when I say that data question, I mean, is our professional learning working? Are we seeing teachers grow? Are people attending those professional learning sessions? Oh, that's already up. And then also, how are we at the state supporting you? So these are all tentative dates. Thank you for taking pictures. I do want to follow up with you all because I haven't met a lot of people in this room, and I want to hear from you at the LEA level. I can look at your reports, I can look at comprehensive plans, I can look at scores and indicators and all that jazz, but what is it that you need from the state? What are the things that, I always used to say this to my teachers, what are the things that keep you up at night, right? Where do we support? Where do I listen? And you're nodding because, so on my first day, I went to a chief academic officer meeting, and I got to learn from my LEAs right away some of their needs. And I say that to say, when you meet me, talk to me, let me know. When you get those emails, some of you have already seen that I will respond. I am there, I'm gonna answer the questions. These are tentative dates for collaborative convenings, collaboratives and convenings. These are also hypothetical locations, but I do want us to acknowledge that we are a big state, and I want everybody to have an opportunity to drive down the street versus driving to Baltimore or PG. I made it in 57 minutes from Baltimore County this morning. So I want to acknowledge who we are, where we are, and where we're going. On Monday, August 11th, from 9 to 11, I didn't send you an email, which is why it's here. We are going to have office hours. I want to spend some time debriefing what you all learned, answering questions, and then in the future, in between these times, I know we have some deadlines coming up beginning of September. In between there, I do want to visit you all. I do want to understand your local context. I do want to have those virtual calls because of course those are quicker, but I want to spend some time going through your data, talking to you so that when we do make decisions at the state, they're aligned to what you need. Yes, there are going to be things that come down the pipe. We know that that's education, but it is much easier to make those decisions when I can say, I know Talbot is already doing X, or I know that I talked to PG and I actually talked to Anne Arundel and they're saying the same thing. So the more I get to know you, the better off I can support you. So again, thank you, thank you, thank you. I look forward to connecting with you. I hope today was impactful. One more thing, shameless plug again. On the back table, we've talked about coaching. Dr. Wright talked about coaching. We have, it says, I believe, early learning. It might not say the word coaching, but early learning coaching opportunity. Essentially, we are looking for our LEAs to opt in to working with us at the state level to develop that coaching. We want to, thank you, Lindsay, my Vanna White, holding up my wonderful one-pager with a QR code that I made in 2 seconds during my board meeting breaks yesterday. We talked about this in implementation science, right? Like, get the schools, the teachers, the people that want to opt in to trying things out. And so we're in the same boat here at the state. We want to hear from you, we want to work with you, we want to try things out before we make those final decisions. So please engage in that. We also have AIM and SUNY flyers. Take them back, talk to your teachers. We have courses for leaders. We have some in-person cohort models as well to accompany that asynchronous work. So again, thank you.
It just keeps going and you think it's over. We're almost done. So I'm Simone Gibson from Mile. I represent the Morgan portion of the Mile Collaborative. I just want to say thank y'all again. You've heard it a lot, but we really mean it. Y'all, I have kids who are teenagers now, but they've always been little ones, and I feel like I've seen every cartoon that has existed since they've been little ones. There's the movie Despicable Me. Y'all know that? Pharrell did the soundtrack for the movie, and there's this one song, and he says in the song, which is beautiful for such a silly little cartoon, he says, there's something very special on the other side of this moment, but it's only special if we create it. And I want to thank y'all for coming here with open minds, a willingness to engage, because this didn't have to be special. It didn't have to be anything of any significance. It's a summer hot day. We all have 1,000 other things that we could be doing, but you chose to be here. And even if you were voluntold to be here, I'm calling it a choice, because you chose collaboration, you chose coalition, you chose engagement, especially in a time when things are incredibly divisive and kind of awful. So I just really appreciate your time, your willingness, your openness. And MSDE, I thank you for allowing us to partner with you on this. Like, you always learn how to do better for the next time, but this has been awesome for us. And so thank you for that collaboration. Thanks, everybody.
Are you pushing? What's that?
If you could mention that slide before you go to the next slide, it's very important.
Okay. This is very important. Probably much more important than what I'll say. So, okay. So, and I promise not to be long. So this has been a long time coming. This is the third summit that we've had in 5 years or so. Some of us, many of us in this room, including Kareem, were part of the first summit that we did back in 2021. Actually, I remember it was 2 days after January 6th. So where that brings us, but it's been impactful, bringing the state together, bringing the leaders of the state together. We have gone so far, and we have come far, and we have more to do, clearly. So, one of the guideposts of this event was to set the literacy vision for Maryland and set us on our journey moving forward, and moving forward together. And we asked in our higher ed session yesterday, what is the vision? And a lot of what we set out to do in these past 2 days is to set that vision and mission around those evidence-based, equity-centered practices that are going to be impactful, especially for those children who are often left behind. And so I kept framing that evidence-based, that data-driven approaches, and I said, right, we want to focus on the 3 I's. And Dr. Brewer was like, what are the 3 I's? So, instruction, intervention, implementation. So instruction, right, we need to have data that drives our core instruction. So in the classrooms, teachers need that understanding. What data are we using in order to drive, the day-to-day decisions? Did they learn? Did my students learn today? What's the data that drives that? Right? That's not the MCAP scores, right? That's not the NAEP scores, right? That's your curriculum-based measures, some of your diagnostics, your screeners, differentiation, right? But we talk about instruction, and you heard about high-quality instruction materials, but scripts don't teach kids. Teachers teach kids. One of the things that, we have to empower our teachers with the knowledge and the skills to be able to deliver instruction. Kareem has a great YouTube video on the art of teaching. But we have to really empower them with the knowledge, right? What is the knowledge that they need? And that's where we brought our higher ed colleagues. I'm so proud of our higher ed coming together, as they have these past 2 days, to talk about those issues, right? It's the knowledge that we provide. And we also have to talk about the fact that one of the things that we'd like to do is to lift up that profession. How do we lift up that profession? I talked about that a little bit yesterday. I said, great, teaching is a clinical practice. How do we do all the other clinical practices, right? How do we teach our doctors, our speech and language pathologists, right? They get the basic science, and they have the art of their profession, right? And they also understand that the evidence is going to change. I'm a scientist at heart, right? I know that there's going to be new evidence that tells us that we're not going to do bloodletting anymore. I hope. We're not going to take Clorox bleach when we have a COVID pandemic. Vaccines don't cause autism. Lots of evidence. Sorry. But my point being is that the evidence that we use, right, we have to empower our teachers on how to use evidence and how to continue to refine their practice in accordance with the evidence as professors. So there's going to be continued professional learning, right? We elevate the profession of teaching just like when we elevate it such that it's just like all the other clinical professions. That these are knowledgeable individuals who know their knowledge, they know their practice. I'm married to one, right? I hear it every day, right? Higher ed, as I said, we play a role in that, right? And so we need to embrace that training model. We also need to give teachers the agency to contextualize their practice for the children in front of them, right? That's the responsive practices. As I said, it's fidelity to the principles. One thing that implementation science tells us, it's fidelity to the principles, right? It's not the script, evidence, going back to the National Reading Panel, whatever evidence you want to look at, right? The magic isn't in the script, the magic is in the principles. And when any clinician who has ever been in any field, right, you understand the principles. You understand how vaccines work, you understand, right? So you understand, hey, if you have an allergy to penicillin, then there are sulfate-based, antibiotics. Right? It's contextualizing to the children in front of you, serving the children in front of you, embracing their culture, understanding the knowledge and the assets that they bring to the classroom, the linguistic and cultural backgrounds, the communities that they have. That's what the art of teaching is about, is how do you reach the kids in front of you? How do you embrace their humanity? Intervention, right? We use data to drive intervention. We have this multi-tiered support systems. As I talked about earlier, I was around in the early days of testing RTI, when we used to talk about RTI. We need systems. That takes systems. That takes systems at the classroom, systems at the school level, systems at the district level, right? Working together. How are we supporting those systems? And oftentimes we have these, what we call flip triangles. You know what they are, right? So how do we embrace what has to change at core instruction, at tier 1? How do we then adapt to tier 2, right? Those are some of the systems that we put in place. Right? And do we have those systems in place? Implementation, the third I, right? And so implementation, as I talked about a little bit yesterday, right, it's breaking down those silos. The silos between the district leadership and the schools, the silos between the school leadership and the classrooms, right? Between higher ed and the schools that they serve. Right? Breaking down those silos is critical to implementation. One of the facets of how we are enabling implementation right, is to have those feedback loops so that our teachers are talking to our principals and our principals are talking to their leadership. And our ELA coordinators and the special ed coordinators and the TESOL ELD coordinators are all working together with the same vision, the same mission, the same resources, and the same knowledge base, the same vision. Right? These are the things that we are trying to kick off, and I think this meeting has been so powerful in kicking many of those systems off. And like I said, I hear that term of, oh, well, the teacher just closed the door and do what they do. So right, we need, what is it that's causing those teachers to close those doors, right? As opposed to open up. Open up and ask, I need help. How do I do this? How do I do this better? And this is the coaching models. How do we implement those coaching models? It's non-evaluative. We had, great evidence this morning of talking about coaching, talking about school leadership, talking about district leadership with coaching, non-evaluative feedback, and all of that. So, lastly, I'm going to end. I showed this yesterday. For those of you who weren't here yesterday, I just want you to drink this in. This brings us back to where we started, to be a collaborative. Again, it's not the critic who counts. There are a lot of critics out there. My wife is always on DC Urban Moms. I'm sure a lot of you have probably seen it. There's lots of critics. It's not the critic who counts, right? We are in this together. And in these times that, as Josh, Simone, and others have talked about, right? In these times especially, we are engaged, as Kareem said the other day, said yesterday, right? This is the front for civil rights. This is the modern front for civil rights. That's the battle. And at a time where we cannot afford to be divided, we cannot afford to be fighting this battle in our silos, fighting, I'm going to do what I do, you do what you do, closing the door. We can't afford that. And right now, division is profitable, politically and economically, right? This is the arena that we're in, right? If we're going to fight, if we're going to resist, some good trouble. So, this is how we do it. We come together, and we continue to come together. Learn from one another, support one another. Working together, be vulnerable at times to understand, hey, this isn't going well, how do I refine this practice? How do I refine this system? How do I implement that? So I want to thank you, all of you, for being here, being in the arena, and being with us. I want to thank so many who were a part of this to form this united front. Our teachers, our principals who are here today, our school leadership, our ELA coordinators who are working tirelessly, as I mentioned yesterday. That's one thing, I've just seen how hard everybody's working. Our IHE leaders, thank you for being here. Thank you for joining together in this fight, learning together, working together. Our partners, right? IBIS, AIMS, SUNY, the Reading League, Decoding Dyslexia, so many, NCIL, all these partners, Reading Universe, all of us, right? Working together, not against each other, not trying to be right, but working together in this battle, because this is how we get it done. Our champions, Kareem, thank you. It was, I couldn't have kicked this off anyway. It's just amazing. Antonio Fierro. Antonio, for those of you who weren't at the hire, Antonio is a champion who's been in this fight for a long time. I want to thank our colleagues at MSDE, Dr. Wright, a 3-time Terp. So welcome home. Lots of Terps in the crowd. Dr. Tanette Smith. Dr. Smith came, and working together has been amazing. Where's Tanette? Sorry, I have my glasses. Finding ways of working together, and that's how we made this possible, right? When we came together. Dr. Elise Brown, Dr. Chelsea Brewer, and her team, her literacy team, who's been working tirelessly. We've been working with them side by side. Dr. Whitaker and all of you, like I said, it's this work together. And I thank you all for all of this effort. And to my Mile team, this has been a journey, multi-year journey. I stood Mile up with the help of Simone and so many others that are here. Actually, I would say, there are those in the crowd who helped me. Laura Schultz is not here. Carlene Spatulnik, Decoding Dyslexia, NCIL, they said, hey, we need to do this in this state back in 2019. We need to bring people together. And so I thank you. We stood this up because we knew we had to serve. Higher ed needed to serve. We're in R1, University of Maryland, College Park, the land grant institution, the flagship institution of the state. What is the land grant mission of the state? What is the land grant mission? To serve its people. To serve the people of its state. As an R1 university, constant refrain is, you don't serve. You get your big grants and you do what you do, and then, that's it. We needed to serve. Anybody know what the first teacher prep institution of the state is? Who's that? Yeah, no. No, it was Morgan State. Morgan State. No, I'm getting. I'll get fact checked. I get it. I'll get fact checked. But anyway, with the flagship institutions coming together to do this work, that's why we're here, to serve. So to my team, thank you. To Simone, my partner in crime, to Maggie Peterson, Laura Groth, Lindsay, I need a round of applause for Lindsay. Put these 2 days together. And Emily Samose, who came with us and joined us for this, and my whole literacy team and my Mile team, thank you. But I want to thank all of you again for making these 2 days a wonderful kickoff to this future. Thank you.